Good morning. This is a Sunday. It's September 6th, and it's we've got rush hour. And today in China is not a Sunday like it normally is. That's because we had the holiday on Thursday, that was for the end of World War II, and in China, what happens is if you have a holiday in the middle of the week, they have to make up that day. So today is the makeup day, and I'm in front of one of the local schools here, and it's just to help illustrate how, you know, show that school is in session in China because this is the makeup day, and the I guess the way they look at it is that the holidays, the days of the holiday are significant, not the actual time. Well, the time is significant for them because they need to make it up. So often you'll have holidays in China, and they'll make it up on a Sunday. So, but at Nanjing International School, we do not follow that procedure. If we have a holiday on a Thursday, we don't make it up on a Sunday. We still have our weekends. So our weekends are still sacred, and we still enjoy the normal holidays. That's not the case for all the husbands that work, or husbands and wives that work at the different companies around the Nanjing. So while they have to go to work, their kids are still enjoying the weekend. So I wanted to just share this view of traffic on a Sunday, and it really feels like a twilight zone because I've got a weekend. It doesn't feel like a Sunday because there's so much traffic and business and whatnot. After this, I'm going to walk down to the German bakery because that's what I do on a Sunday. I go down to the German bakery and I pick up a bread and have a coffee, and then I head back home. So we're here at Skyways. This is the bakery I go to once a week to pick up a loaf of bread and just have a cappuccino. What's significant about Skyways is it's a German-owned bakery, and to get normal bread, it's hard to get normal bread in Asia, much less China. I saw that getting normal bread in Japan was all but impossible to do. And what I mean by that is a lot of the bakeries actually, they give you can get a bread, but it's very white and very sweet. So to get a savory style bread is a difficult, very difficult to find. What's interesting, compared to Japan, it's impossible for me to find it. I think on my 5th year I did find a supplier, and I had to basically go to one of the 5-star hotels, and I found one of the suppliers for the hotels and would get the bread from them. But other than that, I couldn't find the bread. Here we've got such a large German community that when you have that type of environment, then you have businesses that pop up that serve those communities. So Skyways is, like I said, is German owned. Their breads, they import all the wheat and import all the ingredients so that the bread is as authentic to a German bread as can be. Some people ask, why don't you just use the flour that you see in the local stores? And people have tried that, but the problem is the flour here is designed for like a noodle, or it's designed for buns, for the Chinese style bun. So it's a very fine flour. So if you try to make bread, it doesn't rise properly. It doesn't have the right flavor profiles. So it's just easier for people to import the wheat from Germany, and they either have it pre-ground in Germany or they grind it here. It's probably usually what happens is there are some families that have their own wheat flour grinders, and so they bring in the wheat and then they grind it to the coarseness that they need for their bread, and then make it. Here it's already made. What I can say is that getting used to this bread has made me much pickier about bread back in the United States, because the bread here doesn't have any sugar in it. And I found that even when I went back to the United States, the breads, the brown breads or the whole wheat breads, they always use a bit of molasses in the ingredients, and I found that even that was too sweet for me. So I would actually go back to the States and miss this bread. There was one time I did go to Germany, and I was just blown away by the variety and styles of bread. So I can't imagine. I can imagine that the breads that we find, or the Germans that come out to China, the most difficult task for them is probably getting used to not having as many choices with bread selections. But that's the thing where all of us, when we come to a different part of the world, we have I think the hardest thing is the food stresses, and how do we get around that. The irony of that too is that we come to these different countries and we learn to love the food in these different parts of the world, and then we go back home and we miss that food. So for instance, when I'm here, I eat a lot of Muslim noodle, and when I go back to the States, I miss that noodle. So much to the point where I'm thinking, I need to go into the restaurants, I need to learn how to make the noodle from the basic ingredient. And the way they make that noodle is they use their hands, and they flap it around and on a stone tablet, and so you don't need a special machine. It's just really about skill. So now I'm going to go in and get some bread. So I'm back out from the bakery, and I just wanted to make some clarifications on some of the statements I had made earlier. I was lucky enough to bump into the owner of Skyways and asked him specifically about what they do as far as importing flour. And he was saying that with flour, he imports flour from Germany if it's whole wheat and if it's rye, and it's already ground. He doesn't do any of the grinding. Normal flour he imports from Canada, and it's not because he can't get flour in China. He's saying structurally flour is flour. It doesn't matter where you get it from. But the challenge in China is that they don't produce enough flour for the number of people they have in this country. So the majority of flour in China is imported from Canada. So that's the clarification on that. That's all I have for today, the Sunday that everyone works on, but we don't. Bye.